iScrappers, Tom from the iScrap app. Today is Wednesday, June 27th, 2018. It's 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And like we try to do every Wednesday afternoon at 1 p.m., we're trying to do our weekly report, let you know what's going on with the markets, let you have the opportunity to ask us questions where, maybe some of our expertise can help you learn where the markets are, where they've been, hopefully where they're going, give you a little better idea going forward on how you can react and really schedule some of the scrap sales for the material that you've been holding up, or maybe jobs you have going on. So don't hesitate to ask us questions during our live sessions. If you are watching this after we record this, please ask us more questions. Either ourselves will respond, or I'm sure another scrapper would love to. Speaking of other scrappers, we have our group through Facebook that we'll link to, which has thousands of people talking, posting, learning about scrap amongst scrappers talking scrap, as I said a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully this will give you a really good idea on where things are, where they've been, teach you a little more about what you need to know, and it'll help you going forward. But in the last week, it's been a super strange week. Before we get into some of the news and the updates, we'll go over a couple of prices. Bear Bright prices we saw posted anywhere from $231 to $269 per pound for Bear Bright. So we did see a decrease in copper prices, which we'll talk about. We saw copper pipe about 15 cents less per pound, $210 to $245, $250, depending on the grade and the area. Brass prices ranging from the low 150s to the high 160s per pound. Insulated wire prices between 57 cents and 68 cents per pound. Aluminum prices staying steady with sheet prices around 38 to 47 cents per pound. Light iron slightly up, averaging anywhere from $110 to $165, $170 per ton. Some of those higher prices are for shred in larger areas. Heavy steel prices we saw up about $3 or $4 per ton as well. Gold prices have dipped down to around $1,250 per ounce, which means you're going to have some of your electronic prices being affected. Overall, the market has seen a decrease over the last week, with copper dropping another 10 cents a pound. So we've seen about a 32-cent drop over the last 2 or 3 weeks in the copper market after that nice pop that we saw earlier this month. So we'll talk about non-ferrous prices. Like we just said, copper prices have fallen again. A lot of people ask us why they're falling, and there's a couple of factors that determine it. That 30-cent increase we saw at the beginning of this month, that was due to speculation that there were going to be strikes in some of the Peruvian mines. In the Peruvian mines. Those strikes ended up not happening, but the fear of having a strike happen led to a lot of people, thinking that the copper prices were going to increase. So when we reported a few weeks ago that large increase in the market, hopefully you had the opportunity to cash in, because we don't think that that is going to go up anytime soon. We think that these prices are going to be here, barring some type of another large speculation on a strike or some type of a shortage in the copper market. But with the amount of material that's been flowing into scrap yards throughout the U.S., North America, and the world, quite frankly, we don't see there being a large shortage coming anytime soon, especially during what is generally the busier time of the year, the spring, summer, for scrap coming into scrap yards. Aluminum has been relatively strong. It's been untouched, but we talked to a couple of people that think that when a lot of these tariffs really start hammering home, we could see the aluminum market changing, but we're not sure where it's going to be. One thing that was very interesting that we read in the last few weeks was about the potential tariffs on the European car market, and how does that affect scrap. So we'll go into that. So we're talking about the European cars being imported into the U.S. having a possibility of a $6,000 per car tariff imposed. So what does that mean? People driving Volkswagens, Audis, BMWs, Mercedes, vehicles, the Fiats, things like that are coming from Europe, you're going to see a $6,000 per car increase on them. So, that's not going to affect your scrap prices, but what's going to start to happen is more and more people, what the government's trying to do, they're trying to keep people buying American-made cars to keep the jobs and the metal inside of the country. So we'll have to wait and see where some of these things go. People constantly are asking us about what's going on with the tariffs, what's new, how it's going to affect scrap prices. And while some of these things might not directly affect them because $6,000 would be on top of a sticker price, we still want you to know what we're learning and trying to figure out, because a lot of people are learning and trying to figure things out. You know, there are economists that do this for a living that are still trying to figure out how a lot of these tariffs that we're imposing and then are being imposed on us are going to really work themselves out, and there's no clear answer yet. So we're continuing to watch it, continuing to monitor it, and we're just trying to learn about how it's going to go going forward, and it's not the easiest thing in the world. So with the copper prices down, we still see a lot of material flowing into scrap yards. We've talked to some people that said that they're going to wait for that $3 per pound Bear Bright number, which got really close when we saw a few weeks ago. We saw reported prices for Bear Bright in the upper 280s, lower 290s. I actually believe I saw one person report that they got $3 per pound somewhere in upstate New York, but that was only very quick and very brief. So who knows where the markets are going to be going from here. We continue to monitor the insulated wire market, which has been a very tough one. While we mentioned last week that there have been other countries that have been buying the stuff and starting to take it in, we're still watching and monitoring it because it is not the easiest thing in the world to move right now. So aluminum, relatively stable. Copper has been down. We still see a large influx of material coming to the scrap yards. Don't forget, these prices are still at a very nice level, so there's no reason to really hold on to what you have at your house or your yard or your business. I still think it's a very good time to sell metals. Yes, you can argue with me and say, hey Tom, it was just 30 cents higher a few weeks ago, but unless you're a gambler and you just plan on holding out and waiting for that to happen, we still think that now is a good a time as it's been in 2018 to sell the metals that you're holding, that you've worked hard to do. We've seen people through our Facebook group posting pictures of new tools that they're buying, whether it be sawzalls or strippers, different ways to make more money. So keep telling us tools that you're using. We maybe would love to feature you in some type of a blog or a post on how you scrap for a living, and we'd like to learn what you're doing. Hopefully it can help others throughout the country, you know, make more money as well. Steel markets up across the board, very positive sign. We saw higher grades of steel, unprepared, PNSs, rotors, go up about $5 per ton on average across the board. Light iron, we also saw increase after the decrease that we saw the last couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks in the ferrous market. So that's a positive sign, especially with more and more steel coming out with all the demolitions that are going on. We've been reading articles and talking to people throughout the US, and they've said that they are so busy with a lot of demolition projects due to expansion and growth of other companies and redevelopment of properties that have been abandoned for years, that they expect to see more and more metal coming out than they have in the last 5 or so years. So that's another very positive sign. Overall, the gold market has definitely gotten hit. That has to do with some of the oil prices, where we've seen oil having a big drop, and then we've seen oil increase 3 or 4% the last few days. Those oil prices are, of course, going to affect so many things, from transportation to trading to metal prices. We continue to watch that, and they're really... The one thing that I can say is there has not been a clear-cut pattern, and when I read more and more about what President Trump administration is trying to do, that's kind of where they expected 2018 to go. You know, they're throwing lots of monkey wrenches into a puzzle that is really hard to sort out. You know, you hear all types of news and different pieces from different articles about how things are going, and it's just not the easiest thing in the world. So we're continuing to watch it, we're continuing to learn about it. What we have learned is we have no good answers, because they're continuing to change as the weeks and the months into 2018 really progress. So we're continuing to read and learn as much as we can, and hopefully in the next few months, I think it's going to take all of the summer, maybe longer, to really get a good grasp on what's going to be happening with the metal markets going through the end of 2018 and then into 2019. Overall, market's been relatively healthy, steady over the last week. Like I said, copper prices down slightly, but still at a very strong level. If you have any questions about scrap that we can help you with, please let us know. If there's anything that we can show you or write about to teach you more about scrap prices, scrap sorting, scrap separation, and metals to look for, let us know that. Join our Facebook group so you can talk scrap with other scrappers that are doing this either full-time or part-time, or just like to do it as a hobby because they like to learn and make a couple of extra bucks. Any other things, let us know. Virginia, we have a question coming in at the end here.
Quick question from Brian.
Hey, Brian.
He asked, what is Zorba?
Zorba is generally the shred, one of the shred piece. So at a shredder, you have all the light iron and cars and stuff go into the machine. It pops out, and inside you have a whole mix. You could have copper, aluminum, brass, fluff that's kind of in there. All the steel mixed together. That's generally called Zorba. So I'm not a shredder, so I don't have some of those definitions as down as I could, because it's not affecting my day-to-day scrapping world. But thank you for the question, guys. This is Tom from the iScrap app. Today is Wednesday, June 27th, 2018. Don't forget, every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, we like to do our weekly report, let you know what's going on with the scrap prices and the markets overall. Let us know any questions you have, any ideas that you have that could help us help you. But until next week, I'll scrap you later.